going on, YouTube? Today I want to talk about a Canadian from Montreal. I've already done a review on him before, but he has a new album out now called An Imaginary Country. His name is Tim Hecker. This album was released in 2009 on Kranky Records. Tim Hecker, if you don't know, he used to be part of this electronic kind of, I don't know, ambient glitch band or some sort of weird band like that called Jetone or Jet One with his friend Christian Vogel. Christian Vogel also has quite a little bit of output, but I don't think he went in the ambient direction that Tim Hecker went in. Tim Hecker doesn't like the label ambient either. I've been reading a few interviews with him, and he doesn't really like titles, so maybe we should just call him like shoegaze electronica or something. Anyway, I really like him. An Imaginary Country really isn't anything new for Tim Hecker fans. It's not really a step back or a step forward. It's like maybe like a baby step forward, maybe a little. It's not as it's not as mind-blowing as his previous work. Like, at least to me, it didn't blow my mind like a lot of his other stuff did, but it still has all his like trademark sounds and a lot of the elements he incorporated in his previous work. Like, he likes to use like huge whitewash noise and lots of shimmering sounds and glistening textures and tectonic movements and stuff like that. He likes to do the whole kind of, you know, epic white noise with lots of swells, and then have like, you know, quieter lulls and softer passages and stuff too. And there's actually a couple songs on here that incorporate like subtle bass lines. Like, there's actually a little bit of like a pulse to some of the tracks on here, but for the most part it's still just like that kind of epic white noise with a little bit of distortion, and it gets layered and it gets really dense. It's still a pretty good album. It's just not, I don't feel like it's his best work or anything, because I don't know, it didn't have like the innovation that his earlier stuff did, and didn't trigger like an emotional response like his previous work did, where it would trigger like a feeling of like, you know, yearning or heartbreak or just like serenity and stuff. Like, all this album, the only thing it made me remind me of is just like enveloping you in this white noise, and it kind of reminded me of parts in movies where a person's dead and they're going down the black tunnel, and the white light at the end of the tunnel is getting bigger and bigger, and, you know, enveloping you and stuff. It's kind of what the mental imagery I got from it anyway. Yeah, whitewash, sounds cascading over you. In an interview, he said he's also using guitar and guitar effects and synthesizers and just, you know, general like chiming drones, and he actually takes some white noise or feedback from radio, like just dead air from radio, and he'll put that all in a laptop or in his mixer and just turn everything outside out and make it really massive and really big. This is definitely like the same kind of deal as Sun, where you just have to like listen to it really loud to get the full effect. Maybe even if you had surround sound or something too, that'd probably help a lot. But yeah, Tim Hecker, I really like him. If you're looking to get into Tim Hecker, I'd suggest maybe you could start on his previous album, because that was the first album I ever heard from him. It came out a few years ago. It's called Harmony and Ultraviolet. I don't actually own a copy of that album. I only have a burnt copy that my friend Chad Jerkowick gave me, that he also had it handed down to him from another friend, probably Matt McKenzie or something. But Harmony and Ultraviolet is pretty rad. It was a pretty good listen, and it made me go out and buy all his previous work and all his previous work album, except for he has this, one of his first albums was just a remix of a bunch of Van Halen interviews. I forget what it's called, but it's not really ambient music at all or anything. It's pretty noisy, weird. I don't know, it's really hard to categorize that CD. I forget what it's called. I'll put an annotation up, whatever it's called. But yeah, Imaginary Country actually got the title from, I think, a French philosopher from France, who is referring to utopia as an imaginary country. Some of the songs on here were inspired by an artist called Peter Doig. Peter Doig wasn't actually the guy who painted the cover art on here. This is actually a painting from 1919 called Montreal Crater Vimy Ridge by an artist named David Milne. Might be hard to read. Line? Anyway, pretty old picture. Not much in the way of like album art here either. I guess that's a Montreal crater, if anyone in Montreal recognizes that place. Type 19s is. But yeah, it's still your above average kind of ambient work, even though he doesn't like to call it ambient. Tim Hecker also does quite a bit of collaboration. He collaborates with a guy named Aidan Baker from Nadja. He also does lots of live performances with ISIS too. which is kind of interesting that he's got all these kind of like metal connections and stuff. But yeah, probably not my favorite album by him. Like, I wasn't really disappointed with it, but I wasn't blown away. I was just kind of like, you know, I don't know. But, like, he's still a cool guy. I really, really enjoy him just because of his previous work and his earlier output. It's kind of cool. And he seems like a cool guy. Every time I read an interview with him, he seems like a pretty down-to-earth. He's not too full of himself. Tim Hecker, Imaginary Country, Kranky Records, 2009. Oh, he also likes, he described his music when they asked him how to describe it. He's called it 4 a.m. music. So, it's pretty cool though.